Before My Heart Gives Out by Kira 18 on AO3. Chapter 22. Let Me Be Selfish, if just for a little while. Izuku thinks he'll never get used to cars, never grow to like riding them. Memories flutter through his mind, like remnants of lost tapes from old movies, flashing and rising to the surface, too chaotic for the calm, almost serene atmosphere that danced around him. Memories of his last and final sight, one of the clearest and strongest memories he had, in fact. The last time his eyes gazed onto the colors and lights of the world. Flashes of red and blue, an onslaught of scene, made hazily and blurry from the pain. Shattered glass, liquid, hot, and colliding, seeping into his eyelids, condemning him to an eternal darkness. The officer escorting them to the precinct fiddles with the radio, filling the silence with soft tunes and breaking whatever daze Izuku managed to get himself into. He feels Bakugo's gaze, intense and worried, trained on him, probably sensing Izuku's discomfort. As if the world was responding to his unspoken wish, the car finally pulls up to what Izuku can only assume is a police station. He's moving before the car is even in a full park, scrambling to get out of the metallic death trap society calls a vehicle. However, just as his fingers reach the door handle, a hand on his shoulder pulls him back. Deku. Bakugo's voice is low as he utters the old nickname. His tone alone is enough to gain Izuku's full attention. When we're done here, you need to talk to Shinsou. You hear me, nerd? You need to tell him everything. The teen's hand disappears from his shoulder after that. The absence of its warmth makes Izuku's whole body shiver as his hand shakily pulls the handle and he finally gets out of the car, only managing to nod in response to the blonde's demand. The officer leads them inside after that, waiting patiently for Izuku to get his bearings and scan his surroundings. As if the unmute button on the world has been pushed, sound immediately accosts his senses the moment his feet cross the door's threshold. The sheer amount of people fluttering through the building rivals the one at the mall. Every one of them moves with urgency and purpose, creating a scene akin to the inside of a beehive. Izuku follows Bakugo's shadow, hands clutching at the boy's sleeve like a lifeline, trying his best to shuffle through the crowd without stumbling or knocking into anyone. Luckily, the walk isn't long. Soon enough, they're in front of a small room. The officer politely asks them to wait for the detective to call them in, and walks after knocking twice on the room's door. Izuku supposes that making a break for it now would seem too suspicious. He would have gotten away sooner if Ida hadn't taken it upon himself to inform the police of his name. He needed to get this over with quickly. He just hoped that they hadn't read his file yet. Too much information on there would be incriminating, specifically his medical records. His musings is cut short as the door finally opens. Izuku does his best to school his expression as he comes face to face with none other than Tsukauchi and Eraserhead, the two people he did not want to see right now, especially not in these circumstances. Bakugo, Midoriya, please come in, Tsukauchi says as he moves out of the way, ushering the both of them to the table with 4 chairs, set right in the middle of the room. The fuck are you doing here? Bakugo exclaims as he notices the underground's hero's presence. Did you expect me to just ignore that you guys ran into the leader of the League of Villains at the mall? Comes Aizawa's bored response. Izuku finds himself stifling a snort. The sound that escapes his throat catches the attention of the room's occupants, though. Sorry, He covers his amusement with a cough, as if he was clearing his throat. I didn't expect Eraserhead to be so calm about it. The silence that follows his statement is unnerving, making him regret ever speaking up. Reevaluating his words, he can't find anything weird about what he had said. That is, until Eraserhead speaks up. How did you know who I was? Cursing himself for his carelessness, Izuku fumbles to find a believable response. I recognized your voice. We've met before, and Jill told me you were his and Bakugo's teacher, not to mention the time when you called me out near the hospital, and I heard Ida calling you on the phone and telling you about the mall incident, so his voice gets lower as his words get faster, and before he knows it, he pulls himself into an all-out mumbling fit. However, when he finally stops himself, the adults seem to believe his answer. He can hear Aizawa's heart stutter the moment he mentions their first meeting, however. He doesn't let the man say anything before trying to redirect the conversation. Can we just get the witness testimony over with, please? It's been a long day. Yes, of course. Please, take a seat. Tsukauchi amends after a moment, clearly disgruntled by the word vomit Izuku just spilled from his mouth. They follow through the usual protocols pretty easily, answering any and every question they get asked with as much detail as they can, as they tell the two men in front of them what happened at the mall. Wait, so you decided to antagonize a villain that could have disintegrated you within a couple of seconds? Tsukauchi asks as soon as Bakugo tells them about his conversation with Shigaraki. I needed to distract him, and I just told him the first thing that came to mind, I guess. I needed to distract him, and I just told him the first thing that came to mind, I guess? He tries to sound sheepish, but the scoff he hears Bakugo let out, along with the soft murmur of problem child, from Aizawa tells him he didn't quite succeed. Next, they tell them about the rest of their interaction with Shigaraki, and despite Izuku's clear reluctance, Bakugo tells them about Shigaraki's parting words. This is even worse than we expected, Tsukauchi said with a nod to Aizawa. Bakugo, we've contacted your parents. They should be waiting for you outside by now. Bakugo recognizes the dismissal, but doesn't seem inclined to take his leave anytime soon. Instead, he turns to Izuku, who's waiting for him then. Aizawa, who's been mostly quiet until now, chooses that moment to speak up. The League knows who he is, changing things greatly. Turning towards Izuku, his voice is grave, as if he wants to convey the seriousness of the situation. It makes you a target, Midoriya. I live at the orphanage in Masato District. I can get there on my own. He knows he's walking on a thin line. He doesn't know how much the two men in front of him know about his situation. Midoriya, you don't have to lie to us. You haven't lived there for a very long time now. Aizawa adds, almost as if to prove their point. His words hit him hard, making it clear just how much he slipped up. The detective had a truth-detecting quirk, for God's sake. How could he have forgotten such a crucial detail? He feels Bakugo's head swirl to glare at him. The teen is probably realizing the reason behind Izuku's reluctance to talk about himself now. Letting the nervous act drop for a second, Izuku lets his back slump against his chair, crossing his arms almost automatically, a habit manifesting itself by the need to put up his shields. He won't be slipping anymore. So, you've read my file. It's more like a statement than a question. They couldn't have known about the orphanage otherwise. We have. You've been declared missing for almost 3 years now. However, our plans to find you a proper home to live in aren't real options anymore. Before Izuku can voice his surprise or even his objection, the hero goes on. The threat the League poses is too great to ignore. We can't leave you unprotected. Izuku barely manages to settle a scoff at that. So, we have 2 options for you. Before they get to explain, a knock sounds from the door. The same officer who drove them sticks his head in hesitantly. I'm sorry for the interruption, but the Bakugos are getting restless and they're asking if they could take the kid home now. As if to prove his point, shouting can be heard from just outside the room. A woman, who Izuku assumes it's Mitsuki Bakugo, is shouting at someone to hurry up. Fond memories flood through Izuku's head, and he can't help but smile. Grumbling under his breath, Bakugo hurriedly follows the officer outside. However, he does threaten Izuku before he leaves, telling him he better update him once this is over. The door clicks shut once again, and the smile slips just as easily from his features. Taking his glasses off, Izuku tries to level his gaze with the men in front of him. He knows he must be unnerving to look at, but he can't bring himself to care right now. What are the options then? Clearing his throat, Tsukauchi is the one to explain. The first one is quite standard in situations like this. The man starts calmly. We put you into witness protection, where you'll be watched and protected around the clock by either heroes or police officers. I think I'd rather stick to the second option then. He finds himself muttering without actually meaning to. However, his response prompts the underground hero to explain the second option. The second option is to become a ward of UA. You'd be placed under my and the other teachers at UA's protection. Meaning it'd not only be watched by normal heroes, but some of the best too. Izuku's first thought is that the second option is even worse than the first. However, it's a second later that he remembers an important detail. One that would certainly affect his decision. Would I stay at the school during class outings, or would I go out with you? You'd go wherever I go, meaning you'd join in any off-campus sites whenever the need arises. He'd be able to go with Shinsou to the training camp. He'd get to protect them if the League decides to strike there. Given his recent encounter with the League, it's a high probability. Just as he's about to answer, a piercing headache makes his world tilt on its axis. The pain must have shown on his face, for the moment he regains his bearings, both men are closer to him than before. Aizawa's hand is outstretched as if to catch him if he falls. With everything that had happened, he forgot to take his medication. Are you okay, Midoriya? Tsukauchi's voice drips with concern, making it hard for Izuku to simply brush off the question. Kid, what happened? Focusing on them, he decides to venture with caution. He made too many mistakes tonight. Haven't you read my medical records? His file should contain information about the chemicals in his system. Didn't they know? Unfortunately, for reasons that are still beyond us, your doctor has restricted access to your file, making it impossible for us to read them without his or your explicit consent. Oh. Why would Dr. Hiro go through the trouble of redacting his records? He couldn't have known that they linked Izuku to Shadow. How could he? Deciding to avoid a gift horse in the mouth, Izuku takes it in stride. This explains why Aizawa and Tsukauchi haven't made the connection yet. Is there anything we should know, Midoriya? The headaches I get are related to the crash I was in when I was 10. There. Vague and true enough for the detective's quirk, not to go off. Can't I just stay on my own? I've survived this long without anyone's protection. I can manage. The League won't even know where to look for me. He tries to reason. The logic behind his words are clear to him. However, it seems like the wrong thing to say if the way the room seems to drop a few temperatures is of any indication. Surviving isn't something you should just settle for. You're just a kid. You can't go on like this. You need to learn to rely on others. I don't know how long you've managed this, but this has to stop, Midoriya. Tsukauchi presses on, mirroring Aizawa's serious tone. We know we are only strangers to you, but we'd give you our world. We won't let anyone treat you like they did at the orphanage. Let us take care of you, problem child. I'll go with the second option then, he says quietly, after a moment, too stunned by the men's words to say anything else. But I have to do something first. He doesn't know how exactly he convinces them, but somehow they let him have the night to himself, enough time to get his stuff, and meet back with them the next morning. For Izuku, it's enough time to go see Shinsou. Dread pulls in his gut at the mere thought. He knows that Bakugo's right. He needs to tell Shinsou. He needs to tell him everything. So, given his deadline, he finds himself perched on Shinsou's windowsill at 11 o'clock. The street is still quiet, and the dark of the night is only illuminated by the street lamps, glowing dimly under the moonlight. His insides twist in anticipation, and he nearly decides to double back. Running from his problems, however, won't make them disappear. So, with that in mind, he knocks twice on the window, the glass vibrating beneath the force. The only barrier between him and his best friend finding out the truth. 1 minute passes, then another, and Izuku thinks maybe, however unlikely, the boy isn't home. The brief relief he feels is outlived the moment the window slides up. The boy's posture is the definition of tired. His shoulders are slumped, hands coming up to rub at his eyes as if he doesn't believe that Izuku is really there. Did I wake you? Yeah, but that's okay. My parents are out of town, so you'd come in. The teen's voice is rough from sleep, tone soft as he moves to let Izuku in. What are you doing here? Shinsou probably doesn't mean to sound so harsh, but Izuku can't get himself to blame him for the bitterness he must be feeling. I need to tell you something. Are you going to tell me why you've been avoiding me? Yes. Izuku's mouth feels dry, as if the words he wants to say are going to get stuck in his throat, destined to keep them tucked close to his heart, next to his fears and his lost hopes. So, you have been ignoring me. Shinsou mutters, dejectedly, the hurt clear in his voice, makes Izuku's chest ache. When he takes too long to respond, the teen continues. Are you mad at me? Did I do something? No! He shouts without meaning to. The guilt he feels rises to the surface, threatening to suffocate him in its clout. No, of course not. You didn't do anything wrong. He's been so caught up in his own feelings and his own decisions that he didn't think about what Shinsou must have been feeling. Then why? Why have you been ignoring my calls? I haven't talked to you properly for weeks. There it is again. The anger the teen must have been suppressing this whole time. And the worst thing is that Izuku has no one to blame but himself. He starts slowly, head bowed down, eyes squeezed shut and trained on the floor below, as he gathered the courage to say it. I was scared, okay? I didn't want to hurt you. I never meant to hurt you. The last time we had a conversation like this was when... Shinsou cut himself off abruptly. Dawning realization hit him with almost physical force. Izuku senses as his body seems to tense, hands outstretched as if to reach out to Izuku, but they falter right before they hit their mark. Fingers curling into a tight fist that he tucks back at his side a moment later. When you told me you were dying. The silence that follows his words is almost deafening, heavy and thick as it settles between them. Izuku. The desperation in Shinsou's voice is almost enough to break him there and then. Izuku, say something, please. Do you remember the night I fought Stain? Shinsou, clearly confused by the change of subject, only nodded at that. That night I got hurt a lot worse than I told you. Izuku plows on, knowing that if he didn't tell him now, he never will. Aizawa got Recovery Girl to heal me. I was fine. He explains hurriedly, eyes still trained on the floor. But Shinsou, her quirk, it did something to me. Finally lifting his head up, unseeing eyes met Shinsou's worried, scared ones. It accelerated the effects of the chemicals in my body. It shortened the time I had left. Not bearing to look at the other teen as he says that, he clenches his eyes shut, once again, willing his senses to block the world out, block everything out. The doctor said I had 7 months left. The sound of breaking glass reaches his ears before he can think about its origin. The sound startles him, making his whole body tense. An ingrained reaction in him screams at him to fight, but he senses no threat. More things break, and Izuku releases his senses again. Shinsou is trashing his room, movements frantic as he throws to the ground whatever he can on hand. Moving towards the boy, he can't help but hesitate. He's never seen his friend act so out of control. Anger and grief cloud his mind, akin to a veil, blurring his sight and blocking his mind from thinking rationally. Shinsou, please stop. At that, The boy turns towards him, chucking the book he'd been holding onto the wall behind him. How can you be so calm about this? Shinsou roars, his voice ringing in Izuku's ear as he steps even closer to him. Hitoshi, please. How can you be okay with this? How can you stand there and accept it? Izuku's fists clenched at his side, his body shaking with the effort to hold himself together, to not let himself fall apart again. The only sound in the room is their breathing, and Izuku decides to speak up. Shinsou's chest is heaving as if he just ran a marathon. The anger and aggression he felt sweep out of him the moment Izuku speaks, as if his body shuts down and his shoulders slump under the weight of his action. I'm not okay. I'm not okay with this. They stand there, chests heaving as they face each other. So much anger and so much pain that they can never properly express. I'm not okay at all. I don't know how to deal with this, Shinsou. I don't know how to do this. His voice breaks as a sob wrenches itself from his throat without his consent. Shinsou, I can't breathe. The pressure in his chest intensifies, and for a moment, he thinks it's happening. He thinks this is it. He's dying. He falls onto his hands and knees, hands clenching tightly on the fabric of his shirt, twisting and squishing it between his trembling fingers. He can't breathe. It feels as if the air in the room has been sucked out, making the world spin around him until he feels as if the suffocating darkness around him expands and amplifies. He can't breathe. His senses go haywire at the lack of oxygen, making it hard for him to sense anything around him. Shinsou tries to speak to him, but his voice sounds distant to Izuku's ears, as if his head was plunged underwater, too deep and too far for him to make out words. Two hands take a hold of his shoulders, and suddenly he's being pulled closer. Focus on me. Izuku. Without knowing what was happening, he feels something crash against his lips, soft and warm. It's so intense that without meaning to, he holds his breath. It could have been seconds, or it could have been an eternity. But either way, Izuku finds that he doesn't want it to stop. The sheer amount of warmth he feels fluttering inside of him is almost enough to make the hurt and pain go away. Shinsou pulls away, and Izuku can breathe again. The pressure, constricting his chest, finally loosens up enough for his senses to work again. His chest heaves with the effort to regain his breathing, but he finds himself calmer than he had been before. He feels Shinsou's trembling form crouched in front of him. How did you do that? Izuku can't help but ask, his eyes wide in shock, voice breathy as he brings two fingers to his lips, nails hovering but never touching. I saw it in a TV show once. Shinsou, we can't. Izuku begins, but falters, not having the strength to say it. I don't want to hurt you more than I already have and more than I already will. I know, just let us have this. Please. I love you, Izuku. I have for a long time now. Izuku doesn't dare utter a single word. His heart hangs onto every word that comes out of the boy's mouth. I just want you to be selfish for once. Just let me be selfish, okay? If it's not for you, then do it for me. The ache in Izuku's heart comes back at full force, and he can't help the tears that stream down his cheeks, uncontrollably. I just want to be with you for as long as I can, till the end, okay? Okay. I want to give a quick note before I go on to the actual notes of the videos. So, as you noticed, I haven't been posting for the last couple days. That is because I was busy moving everything, because I am now in a new room. This room is further apart from the central living area of the house, therefore it's more secluded and better for recording. Great. If you hear a change of quality in the audio, that is because, again, one, further away from the hustle and bustle of the house, 2, this room has a slight echo and it is very noisy. So like I can say something and you very clearly hear it. It's very nice and translucent. I don't know. Vocal words, fancy words throwing in right now. So yeah, that's why I haven't been posting. If you notice that there's a slight change in quality, or if you hear that there's like a little echo, I'm still trying to figure out how to fix that. If there is an echo, I don't know if I'm going insane, or if there is an echo in the comments, please tell me, is this worse quality, better quality? What do you want from me? So yeah, on to the actual notes of the fanfic. Before we get to the whole elephant in the room, because it seems to be that's always the case. There's always something that happens in the end that I really, really want to talk about, but first I have to talk about what happens in the beginning. So, Izuku in that car, it never hit me that Izuku would be fearful of cars. And I can kind of relate to him. I'm fearful of cars. From that one time we got into a car accident. I was not driving. Let me clarify. I was not driving. I was not on the wheel. I was actually sitting behind. We just came back from eating breakfast, and we got into a really not really bad car accident. It was pretty mild, but like we still got into a car accident, and I was in shock. It was very, for a while I couldn't even ride in a car without having like a whole panic attack. So yeah, I get Izuku in that point. It can be very traumatic to ride a car, especially after being in a car accident. And I can't even imagine one that severe like Izuku's, to the point of like losing his fucking sight. Like, I was in a mild car accident. I can't even imagine being in a big one like that. I don't think I would be ever able to set foot on a moving vehicle ever again, honestly. Okay, so when I read the chapter, Let Me Be Selfish, or Let Me Be Selfish at least this once. I think that's what it's called. Let me just scroll all the way up, just making sure. Yeah, Let Me Be Selfish, if just for a little while. There you go. All right. I thought when I read that, I thought, oh my god, finally, Izuku's gonna get the help from Aizawa. We love that. I don't know why it didn't hit me. It's a shindeku fic. Come on. Echo, work with me. So, love that, but UA Ward. I got what I wanted. Actually, I got both of the things I wanted, because I really, really wanted some, like, Izuku gets adopted, or getting taken care of by Aizawa, or trusts Aizawa, and obviously I wanted Shindeku. And I was actually really worried, because I'm like, we're in chapter 22. We have 11 chapters to go. If they don't get together in the next 2-3 chapters, I will start profusely sobbing, because they're gonna get together, and then they're gonna immediately get separated. That is fucking fucked up. I don't want that. And now that I think about it, oh god, okay, I'm not gonna cry. Ooh, that just hit me. Again, I've been spoiled, and I think I know the time frame now, and I'm scared. Okay, but they're together! Yay, they're together. I'm gonna cry. As soon as I'm done recording this, I'm gonna take a break, because I can't, or maybe I'll record, what's it called? Elements, although we're getting stalkery on that one, so that one's also getting angsty. So I think I'm gonna take a break, and then I'm gonna write a little bit of Fluffy Mind, because what makes me feel better after reading angsty stuff and realizing a very angsty thing? Writing angst. So I hope you guys know, I write my most worst and most angsty angst ever when I'm angsty, and when I'm upset. And I just got the greatest idea. You guys are gonna hate me. Oh my god. The people over in Discord are gonna hate me. I'm about to text on the Discord channel, because I have a Discord, and there's a Discord channel specifically for me talking about my fanfic, which I am getting out there, releasing. I have decided to finish the layout, which should be quick, and then working on the chapters and seeing how that goes. I'm working, my dudes. I'm working. I have writer strike? No, that's not it. I have writer's block right now. It is hitting me hard. But, yeah. After reading that absolute... no, I just had the realization. Those who have read ahead, please tell me I'm wrong. If you... Because, no, I'm gonna really... you know what? I'm gonna ask... what's it called? Kira 18, if I could do the other one, the one where Izuku doesn't die at that certain event, because I need some fluff, okay? I need nice, okay? Even though I'm pretty sure that one's still gonna have Izuku dying at the end. Maybe, I don't know. I heard that it's like if Izuku didn't die, so like, I just need something, okay? Ooh, okay. I'm gonna end this. I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna play with Storm a little bit. I'm gonna write some Fluffy Mind, which is a really nice Shindeku fanfic that I'm planning on writing, where it is a cat, Izuku, and Izuku gets adopted by Midnight, and Midnight's boyfriend slash husband. So, yeah. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.